Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
G'day folks and welcome to the Home Building Hub. You're with Colin and co-host Darren Brennan as always. And today, Darren, we're going to explain to people what the difference is between a land rebate and a land discount. Because right now at the market, the land sales rates are pretty good. They're coming back, and that's because there's some tax coming the developers' way at the end of 2024 or start of 2025. And there's a lot of good reasons to go and buy a block of land. So for all those people out there hunting land, trying to work it out, we're going to explain the difference between what a rebate is and why it's good, and what a discount is, and I guess the pros and cons of each, and just give people a basic understanding so they know what they're dealing with. So Absolutely. You got some news yourself, Daz, don't you? How you going today? Tell us about your change.
Yeah, so I've recently made the change and left Metricon. And what I will say is, geez, I had a good time at Metricon. It was absolutely sensational there. The team there were awesome to work with. And an opportunity's come along to work with an old friend that we've both worked with in the industry, a guy called Simon Mandragona. So bit of a shout out to Simon. And he's at a company called Sheridan Homes. So I've jumped across to Sheridan Homes and moved back into the metro space. So instead of driving to Geelong 2 or 3 or 4 days a week, I'm driving to Melbourne a lot more now, but the office there's a little bit closer, which is nice. And, running a bit bigger team, but really excited to be joining the Sheridan team. And 3 weeks in now, Cole. So it's amazing how quick time flies. And I know part of that meant we missed an episode along the way. So apologies to anyone who was looking for our episode and we didn't have it out there. It's, you and I both had some pretty busy weeks, and there's a fair bit going on out there right now. So, this episode probably leans a bit into that. And it's interesting what you say there about the land picking up and, some of those tax inhibits that are on the developers right now, leading into the end of the year. But, some of the numbers I'm hearing being sold are actually, really good numbers. They're starting to pick up. I've seen a couple of developers who have done, in September, 20 sales and looking to back that up. Some of these people have been, averaging 3, 4, 5 sales a month. So it's good to hear that things are just starting to pick up. And I think these discounts, rebates, a little bit of confidence around interest rates likely dropping. And again, it's probably not going to be this side of Christmas. I don't think it will be myself. I think it's more likely it'll be early in the new year. But, there's certainly, absolute confidence the next move is down, and that's a real positive thing. So bit going on out there, Cole. Brilliant. So, on a personal front, but also on a business front.
Hopefully your new team's listening. Hopefully they came up and said, geez, Daz, I love your podcast. That would have been nice.
I've had a few say that, and there's been a lot of industry functions on. So, again, I haven't been to a lot of the metro ones for a while. So I got fronted at one yesterday, a guy telling me how good the podcast is and how often he listens to it and all that sort of stuff. And, introduced as this podcast guy and all this sort of stuff from, people to people and, whatever it is. We do it for the right reasons, Cole. We do it because we're here to help people. And, I certainly enjoy doing the podcast, as I know you do as well. So, we want to continue that and continue to add value to our listeners. And we really appreciate those people that do tune in. One bit I did pick up on is
leave the comments.
One guy did say to me, he said, I want you to know that I've left a 5-star review. He goes, I've paid the fee and I've shared it with my friend. So he's been listening because he knew about the fee. And I'm like, That's great. Love that. We love that. I've paid the fee and I've given you a 5-star review. So he shared it with his friends and given us a 5-star review. So we really appreciate that. So anyone who has done that, thank you very much. And, we do say our fee are those two things: share the podcast and give us a 5-star review. And that's all we ask of you as a listener. So thanks to those people that have.
Yeah, thank you. We've got some good comments coming through. I got to call myself, Darren, from what I've always said, my favourite land people back in my Southeast days. Shane and Zoe from Kaikoura down the southeast. I used
Yeah,
to
cool.
learn a lot from Shane back in the day, and they called me, I think yesterday or the day before. They're like, "Hey, we're listening to your podcast." And I think Zoe
Yep.
said, "Dad's never listened to a podcast before," so it's sort of cool. But
What's a
anyway,
podcast?
yeah. So I'm going to catch up and say hello to them, and yeah, it's just good.
That's
So it's
awesome.
good things are coming from it, Darren. And for those listening right now, we're probably rambling a bit, but hopefully, you're getting the sentiment of what we're here for. So educate you. So let's jump straight in, so we can give you some value for this episode. So land rebates. The reason we're saying and talking about this topic right now is that there is going to be tax implications for developers. So right now, here today in October 2024, if you go and get a block of land that's titled and you settle on it this side of Christmas or before the end of the year, you will be given an incentive to do that, because there's an incentive for the developer to sell it this year and get it settled on. Okay, that's the long story short. We won't get into the complexities of it all and whatever that means, but let's talk about the two options. So there's land rebates, land discounts. So I'll kick off, Darren, with land rebates. So essentially, a land rebate is a financial incentive that's given back to you after the purchase or after the settlement, realistically. So what that means is you can go into see a block of land. Let's just say, for silly numbers, the block of land is $100,000, and the developer says, "Hey, we've got a rebate on that block of land of $20,000," which means that you're still going to pay technically on the contract. It'll still be valued, and you'll be charged 100 grand. But when you settle, you'll actually only settle on the 80K. Or in some cases, the rebate may not be a cash back rebate. It could be that they'll do your fencing and your landscaping, so there's different variations of what that rebate sort of means.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the definition of a rebate. It's rebated back to you, which is a little different to discounts. Darren, do you want to cover off what that
Yeah, so
is?
I guess the definition of a land discount is a direct reduction in the sale price. So in the case of the $100,000 block, you actually now sign a contract at $80,000. So the actual number in the contract is 80 grand. There's no uh, rebate. There's no secondary document saying we're going to give you a special deal on the side. There's none of that. It's applied up front to your price. And the joy of that, I guess, is it's real. You can see it. There's no smoke and mirrors, none of that stuff going on, which is good. I guess what we're seeing is that certainly on slow moving stock, that's more prevalent. I saw one during the week where they're doing it on some stock that's opposite big power lines, so they want to have a distinct price difference. Areas of high competition, certainly we see it there. And again, depending on where that developer's at, how many settlements they've got to go through, so often they've got land that they're waiting on settling. They don't want to discount it. They want to rebate it, so it looks like it's sold at the same sort of price, although they're trying to incentivize you to move forward. So, what are some of the
Yep.
pros and cons, Cole, of land rebates?
Yeah. So I think for the buyer, the purchaser, it gives them an additional incentive. It can be a bit of a rebate in terms of money back. It can be landscaping, can be those sorts of headaches that you don't have to worry about later. Landscaping, fencing, that's pretty common for front landscaping to be done by a developer. In some cases, it's just part of the deal. In some cases, it's considered a rebate, but or the value of. So things like that. I think there's flexibility on how that can be used. So that's one advantage of one pro. Probably the main positive is that it's something that if you can get finance based on the 100K block plus the build on top of that we're talking about as the example, then I think you can actually get a better value um, proposition out of a rebate than a discount. So it's very likely that a developer is going to be more comfortable giving you a 20K rebate, but only a 15 or a 10K discount. It's very unlikely you'll see a bigger discount than a rebate. The reason
Yeah,
for that is that a rebate benefits the developer because of the fact that it stabilizes this contract sale price. It's still 100 grand in that example. It's not 80 with because of a discount. It's 100K, which helps protect the land values. So they've been selling that stage or that estate for the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years. they don't want it to fluctuate so much, Darren, because otherwise it can really impact the land values of the people who are already in the estate, already built
Yep,
or currently under construction. So there's great benefits to a developer to give away a rebate. And as a result, they're probably more incentivized to give you something a little bit of more value, if that makes sense, than just a standard straight off the top discount.
for sure. I guess some of the pros and cons of discounts would be, it's obviously a direct uh, reduction in the price. So, it reduces the initial outlay. If you're paying a deposit against that amount, the 10% would be less. So, in the case of if it's on 100 grand, you're paying a 10% deposit, you're paying 10 grand. If it's on 80 grand now, you're only paying 8 grand. So, you need less money up front. It's easy to understand and factor into your loan. So, there's no when does it happen? How does it happen? Is it after the settlement? So, do we need to in the case of a rebate, do we need to have a loan for the full amount and then have this cash on the side that comes back to us, etc.? There's none of that, which is great.
Yeah.
It's more appealing to those budget conscious buyers out there because it's an immediate saving. It's real and it's there. There's less appeal to the developer to do it. Is probably one of the cons. So therefore, they're more likely to offer less discount, as you said. They may only offer it on selected blocks. In the case that I'm talking about the other day, which was one of the estates in the southeast, so they're only doing discounts on blocks opposite the big power lines because they know there's going to be some challenges there getting people to like those big silver trees, as they referred to them. When they mentioned silver trees, everyone looked a bit blankly like, what silver trees? They did some artwork
Big
or something
silver
like.
trees.
No, they're the big
Yeah.
power lines. The real big ones. The real big ones. That
Yeah.
may also indicate that the sales are slower. Maybe it's less desirable. And the other bit from a developer point of view is it can impact the valuations of other land in the area, so which can do their own estate damage. Sometimes a developer will do it also because they're trying to reset a pricing in an area and they're happy to do it. They're like, bugger this. We think the bloke around the corner selling his land too expensive and we're happy to sell cheaper. We'll do this and, reduce all land pricing through a corridor by doing so. So it's sort of an interesting play. But
Yeah.
I guess what would the developer offer? Sorry, why would the developer offer the rebate instead of the straight up discount, Col? I guess is maybe the next question in that.
Yeah, so I guess we've covered the benefit to the buyer, but just if you want to understand, I guess, the benefit and why you do that in terms of the developer, just some points on that. So obviously we sort of covered perception of value. So making sure that if you buy, and get a rebate, the land contract is still, 100K in our example, and that's actually a positive thing for the developer because it's not devaluing their land price across the board. And like you said in your example, Darren, one of the things a developer next door could do is he or she could be off there, offering big discounts, which can really inhibit and disadvantage the developer who's trying to just stick with the rebates. So it is a bit of an argy-bargy situation, but in theory, if the developer and the ones that are around it as well stick with rebates, it generally can service that I guess area's valuations and appeal a little better. It's better for
Yeah,
that area. Maintaining property values links in with that, so that's probably why we're saying it. Rebates are pretty good because you can help leave it at the level where you need it to be or want it to be, as opposed to someone just coming in and offering 20, 30, 40, 50K off, which is great for the buyer potentially, but long term it's not necessarily great for the buyer because it can change the values of that entire area if enough people do it.
and again, if
Enough
you're
people
buying
can
in
swing
that
it.
area, Cole, you might have some instant equity created through that incentive. Depending on how the bank's seen that up front, it may mean you've got instant equity in your property, which is great. You've had to borrow less, but the value of that property sits slightly higher, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. Um, The other one is probably marketing promotions from a developer point of view. Obviously, that they can then, I guess, turn it around the way they want and control it with rebates, they have a bit more flexibility, I suppose, is what they can do with their pricing structure remaining the same at contract point, but they can, I guess, chop and change. They've got the ability to make decisions um, based on targeting specific buyer groups, that they want to get into their estate, for example, not investors, and target first home buyers and owner occupiers that offer their rebates, a bigger rebate to those buyer groups, for example. So it gives them a bit more control from that promotional and strategic targeting point of view. What about, you got another three here? You go, Daz.
Yeah, I mean, obviously cash flow considerations. So again, they may choose to give the rebate, for example, when you've finished your landscaping at the front. So they might say, well, we'll give you 10 grand, but you've got to landscape your front yard and show us that it's completed within a period of time. So we often see that from a builder's point of view. We often might get a rebate, or when we build a display home, and again it'll be set to a time frame. So have the home built by this date, and you'll get a rebate as well. So again, time frame sort of situations that are there to help drive an outcome, I guess, from a built form outcome. Often is the reason why they would do those. But they may also offer them rebates if you can settle by a certain date as well. So settle by this date. And again, we're talking about the tax implications right now with land tax and that bill coming up at the end of the year, which is why a lot of developers want to settle land this side of the end of the year, because then they don't have to pay that land tax. And the other thing that has changed, Cole, with respect to that is it used to be a developer could choose to pass that land tax amount on. They can't do that anymore. There was a change in the regulations, and they can't pass that land tax on. So, hence why they're now getting even more, creative in terms of trying to get these settlements to go through, because they don't want to be caught out in that fashion. So, and they can't pass that cost on anymore.
Yeah.
Certainly incentivizes buyers' actions. And what do we mean by that is that, it can be tied to positive outcomes, like we say, ensuring they settle on time, making sure that the house is built by a certain time, etc. Making sure that they have their slab poured by a certain time so they see action on site. So, that makes a lot of sense, and again drives better activity within the estate, which then, I always say activity breeds activity. So, if you're seeing houses going up, you're more likely to want to build in that estate. If there's nothing going on at all in that estate, you're like, hold on, what's going to happen here? That we know houses, I'll be the only one. Maybe that's not where I want to live. So
I'd say, Darren,
um,
that's a really good one for rebates, and why people should be considering rebates also is because you're forced to, not forced, but you're rewarded for settling on time, and that's a huge issue for developers right now, which we learnt from chats previously, that there's so many people not settling because their finance circumstances have changed. So the
yeah,
ability to settle and push ahead and get a build going, and then the states, like I said, up and running, then they can actually see completed houses up and running, and dress their estate nicely, and it's something nicer to drive through or walk through. That's a win for everyone, who the developer and everyone who's buying in it and building in it. That's actually triggered by this rebate option to encourage, and it all comes back. The root cause of that was the rebate to get to settle on time or build on
yeah.
time. These benefits, they can't be seen on day one, but they're definitely there. Yeah.
For sure. It's interesting you say that too, Cole. I saw some stats during the week out in the southeast in the Cranbourne Clyde corridor. I think in September, hold me if the number's not exactly right, but I'm going to say they sold 150 lots in the Clyde precinct over all the developers, which is a really good number. Oh, and then they had 15 blocks handed back,
Yeah.
right? So people couldn't settle was 15, so about 10%. In the west, in the Tarneit Truganina corridor, they sold about 85 lots. Again, pretty good number. But they handed back, I'm going to say it was 55 lots. So this is what you're talking about, where developers are struggling to get settlements through. So in the west, it's obviously harder, more speculators, etc. And so blocks are coming back on the market. Those blocks are often titled, or almost always titled, right? So the developers have got a bit more of this stock hanging around that they want to get rid of. So,
Yeah.
hence why there's a bit more activity around these sort of incentives
And they have
happening.
to resell it. They have to go pay someone to redo the paperwork and redo this and redo that. Like, it's
Absolutely.
in it's of no interest to a developer to have to resell the same block again. So,
Yeah, correct,
yeah,
correct. The last one is flexibility of offerings, and again, it allows them to offer different promos. So it could be a cashback, could be an upgrade, could be a voucher. We've seen it before, Cole, where they've given away cars, holidays, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all these, and what it means is that they can get a marketing campaign out there that's works quite well. It's flexible. It can be tailored to different buyer types. We see it with some of the developers that they do it for care workers. So they have a special program just for care workers that gives them a slightly bigger rebate because they're, serving the community, which is great. And it just makes it more attractive and more likely that they're able to make a sale. So there's some
yeah.
of the great reasons.
Great.
I guess which is
So,
better for buyers, Cole. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, to wrap it up. So, if you're listening, you're not sure what way to go. The truth is, the answer is dependent on your own finance circumstances. To be honest, so you got to talk to your land agent or your builder consultant and your broker or bank, and find out what's on the table and present that to them and say, here are the two options, because a lot of them might be open to giving you a discount or a rebate of different value, and just say which one's suitable for me. So if you're tight on finance, it's probably, not always, but it's probably likely that a discount might serve you better, because your borrowing capacity can cover the house and the land component
I think the
in that
other
event.
part on the discount, Cole, obviously, if it's a straight up discount, you're going to pay stamp duty on the reduced amount.
Yeah,
So instead of the 100K option we're talking about earlier, you're paying stamp duty on 100K, but you get an incentive. You might be paying stamp duty on 80K now instead of paying it on the 100 with the incentive off. So that can be a save. It's not a massive amount, but it all adds up, right?
it does add up. So yeah, the answer is, to be honest, there's not one way or another that suits every single person. So it's got to be your own circumstance. Our advice to you in answering the question is, talk to the land agent, find out what's available, talk to your builder consultant, also find out what's available, and take them to your finance person to say which one suits me best. That's
Yeah.
probably the right answer. Yep. Awesome.
Great,
Well,
mate.
folks, hopefully you got a little bit of value out of that. Pretty simple topic for us, Darren, because we talk about it a lot, but for someone buying for the first time, or just not quite understanding what a rebate is versus discount, now you do know, and hopefully it can help you get the right deal for your land purchase. Go forth and get it done. It's a good time right now before the end of the year. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. If you got any feedback, guys, jump on homebuildinghub.com.au. Please leave a question, topic ideas, and other than that, we'd love to see you rate us a 5-star, whatever platform you're on. That would be very good. And other than that, Daz, we'll leave it there, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. And just our disclaimer, whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered as legal or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your personal situation before making any legal or financial decisions.
1,